Hi friends! Welcome to math video number 15. Today we're going to be learning all about SOL 4.3C and D. So we're going to be comparing and ordering decimals, and we're also going to be looking at switching between a fraction and a decimal a little bit more. So what's really important is that students can, when given the model, that they'll be able to write a decimal and the fraction for that model that they see. And we practiced this a little bit in our last video. So you can see that this model here has 4 total pieces and 3 are shaded in. So we know already that that is 3/4, right? In last video, we learned that we can convert that fraction to a decimal by using our calculator, right? Right before our eyes, a fraction can become a decimal because a fraction is a division statement. So you could say 3 divided by 4, and that would equal 75/100. Okay, but what happens if I don't have a calculator? Well, I know. We use our handy dandy long division. We know how to do that. 3 divided by 4. Yeah, we can do that without a calculator. 3 divided by 4. Okay, so let's try that. So it would be 3 divided by 4. Okay, so can I split 3 into 4 pieces? No. So that's when I'm gonna use my handy dandy decimal. I'm gonna pull that out, put that into my problem, and I'm gonna also add one to the top of the line because I'm gonna need that in my answer. So then I just add a 0. Now, can I divide 30 into 4 pieces? Yes, I sure can. So I could say, I could divide that 7 times. And 7 times 4 would be 28, right? And then you subtract it and you get 2. Well, I'm not finished because I'm working on the decimal. So I'm not going to stop there and end with a fraction. I'm going to keep going. I'm going to add another 0 and drop it down. Okay? Now, can I divide 4 into 20? I sure can. That would be 5 times. 5 times 4 is 20, and I get 0. And then I'm finished. So I can go back to my fraction. 3/4 equals 75/100. So I could do it with a calculator. I could do it with long division. Either way works. So please answer this question for me. Now here's the kicker. You also need to know how to convert decimals into fractions. You have to go the other way. How do you do that? If you start with a decimal, how do you make that into a fraction? Well, it's actually not that hard, so let's talk about it. Here is an explanation from Study Island. It says to convert a decimal to a fraction, you take the place value farthest to the right of the decimal, and you're going to make that your denominator. Then you're going to remove the decimal point, and make that number the numerator. Then most of the time you'll need to simplify. So let's take a look at an example. So if we had 25/100, and you know what? The silliest thing, when I say that, I'm actually also saying the fraction. So if you can listen to yourself say a decimal, you can hear what the fraction's going to be. This is 25/100, right? We learned how to read decimals in a different video. If you don't remember how to read decimals, go back to that video and review that. That's going to be really helpful. But if you still don't hear the fraction, let's go ahead and put it on a place value chart. So 25 hundredths. You're going to take the place value that's the furthest to the right, which is that place value, hundredths, and that is going to be your denominator. Okay, 100. Awesome. Okay, and then you just take away that decimal and you put that digit that's on the right side. Anything on the right side, you're going to make that your numerator. 25 hundredths. Pretty cool. And then you could simplify this down because you could divide 25 from the numerator and you can divide 25 out of the denominator and you would end with 1/4. So if you don't know how to simplify fractions, you'll want to go back to that video too and practice that. Let's try this one. First of all, just say the decimal. Read it, and you'll hear what the fraction is. 6/10. Can you see it? Can you see it in your mind? 6/10. It's pretty neat. Okay, well, here's the place value chart. If you don't see it quite yet, let's put the number on there, 6/10. The place value as far to the right as you got is the tenths. That's going to be your denominator, 10. And then you're going to look at any number on this side of the decimal and put that on top. 6/10. Pretty awesome. Now you would simplify this because you could divide 2 out of the 6 and the 10 and you would end up with 3/5. All right, what if your decimal looked like this? That's a little bit different. But you know what? It's not. Listen, say it, read it. 3. Remember how to read a decimal? 3 and 1/100ths. Now close your eyes and say that. 3 and 1/100ths. You're saying the fraction. Let's go ahead and put it on a place value chart. 3 and 1/100ths. Okay, so first thing, we're going to look all the way to the right and get that place value, which is the hundredths. That's going to be your denominator. Then you're going to take the digit that's over on this side of the decimal. That's going to be your numerator. And then you're going to take your whole number and put it right beside it. So that actually turns into a mixed number, 3 and 1/100ths. Pretty cool. All right, that's exciting to me. Let's go ahead and start comparing and ordering decimals now. Okay, so sometimes, I don't know if you're like me or not, but your eyeballs can get a little bit blurry and all these numbers get mixed up when you're trying just to compare them. So I'm going to teach you my strategy and hopefully that would work for you as well. So if we had to put these decimals in order from least to greatest, and look at that, doesn't that kind of play with your eyes? Like, it's hard to figure it out. So what I like to do is line them up by their decimal, one on top of the other, just like that. Okay, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to have a piece of paper beside me, and I'm comparing 3 numbers. So I'm going to write number 1, number 2, number 3. Okay. Now I'm going to cover up all of this except the very largest place value. Okay? So I'm going to just look at that place value. Which digit is the largest in that place value? I think it's pretty clear. That's the 8, right? So that's going to be my biggest number. So I'm going to put that number by number 1 because it's the biggest. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is just look at the one on the top and the one on the bottom and compare those. Since they both have a 0 and the largest place value, we're going to go to the next place value. Oh, there you go. We're comparing an 8 and a 0. Obviously, the 8 is larger, so I'm going to write that number by number 2. Okay, so now since that one's done, now we just have to write the number 3 down. So are we finished? What do you think? No, we're not finished. Because look at the question. Put these decimals in order from least to greatest. Oh boy. Okay, well I have them in order from greatest to least, don't I? So I just have to switch them around. And I'm going to write this one first, this one second, and this one third. And I would get it. Awesome. Okay, so let's try these 3 numbers. Oh my goodness, look at all those digits. It's a blur. And my guess would be that maybe this one would be the biggest because look at all the digits they have. That's my guess, but let's take a look. First, we're going to line them up by that decimal. Okay, maybe I'm wrong. Yeah, see how it changes when you line them up by that decimal? It gets a lot clearer very quickly. Okay, we're going to compare 3 numbers. So I'm going to get a piece of paper and write a 1, a 2, and a 3. And since I want to cover up everything except the biggest place value, I'm going to do this. Well, there's only one number to look at, so that's easy. That one's going to be the biggest number. So I'll write that in the number 1 spot. Okay, so now I'm just going to compare the bottom 2. I'm going to cover up the next biggest place, everything except the next biggest place value. And I'm comparing a 6 and a 5. I think we all know by now which one's bigger. The 6. So that number goes next. I'm going to write that by number 2. And then finally, I just write the third one on by number 3. And that's the one that I thought would be the biggest, because look how many digits there are. So you have to really be careful and make sure you line them up by the decimal because it can play with your eyes. Okay, so now are we finished? Yes, we are, because this time it asks us to put these in order from greatest to least, and that's what we did. This is the biggest, the second, and the third. Very good. Okay, friends, you get a chance to do this one all by yourself, okay? So take a look. This is a table that shows the times it took 4 students to complete a 40-meter race. So they're on a track meet, they're running as fast as they can, and this is how long it takes them each to run the same distance. So we're going to compare these to see who's the fastest, right? Take a look at that. The question they want you to answer is which statement about these is true. So take a very close look at each one of these. This is not the kind of question that you're going to answer in a minute or 30 seconds. You're going to take your time and make sure. Slash the trash. Get rid of the ones that you know are not right and make sure you are confident with your answer. Go ahead and take time to do that. Okay, so next we're going to take a look at a model. Remember these? We learned how to do this. So how many pieces is this square cut into? There's 100 pieces. So if you were to write a fraction, you would have 100 on the bottom. And then how many pieces are red? Because this is obviously not one whole square. Part of it's missing, so we're only looking at the red part. And there's 39 squares here. So if you were to write that as a fraction, it would be 39 over 100. If you were to write that as a decimal, 39 hundredths. Okay, so then you're going to compare these. Which one's bigger, 39 hundredths or 37 hundredths? And then you could put the answer in the box. There you go. Okay, take a look at the next one and tell me what you think. What is the decimal value of this model? Okay, did you guess 36 hundredths? Because you're right if you did. If not, maybe you should watch that video again about how we convert this model into a decimal value. Okay, so now we compare 36 hundredths or 37 hundredths. Which one is bigger? There you go. 36 hundredths is less than 37 hundredths. Okay, and finally, let's look at this model. What is the decimal value of this model? Did you say 37 hundredths? Because you would be right. There's 37 red squares out of the 100 total, so 37 hundredths. And then when you compare these, obviously they're the same, so it would be equal. All right, so now you get to do one all by yourself. You're going to look at Model A and Model B. The first thing I want you to do is find the value of each of these decimal models. What's the value of Model A? Write it on your paper. What's the what's the value of Model B? And write that on your paper. That's number one. And then number two, you're going to compare the decimals that you create. Compare the decimal value of Model A to the decimal value of Model B. And you're going to choose if it's equal, less than, or greater than. Okay, next question. You're going to look at this model and you're going to decide what's the decimal value of it. So up here, Model 1 is all the way full, and that means it's 1. It equals 1. 1 whole. So this is a pizza that nobody ate. And this is a pizza that somebody ate a few pieces out of. So what fraction would this represent? But instead of writing it as a fraction, I want you to write it as a decimal. So go ahead and choose which one you think is right. And finally, this is the last question of the day. You're going to fill in this chart. I think this is kind of fun. So I want you to notice that this side is all the decimal values, and this side is all the fraction values. So this is 7/10, and that equals 7/10. This is 25 hundredths, and that equals 25 hundredths. So what would be the decimal value of this fraction? Look at this decimal, what would be the fraction? For this decimal, what would be the fraction? And then what would be the decimal value of that fraction? So fill in the blanks. All right, we're finished with math video number 15. Don't close the video until you click on the smiley face and let me know what you thought of this topic. Is it easy for you? Is it challenging still? Maybe you need to review math video 14 before you can fully feel that you have mastered this math video. So you can take charge of your learning and review what you know that you need to review. Go ahead and complete the Study Island lesson by Friday. Go to IXL.com for more practice and take a moment to look at this awesome poster. I love it. I want to print this out and hang that in my office. All right, folks, I hope you have a wonderful day. Bye, everyone.